What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Propability for UFC 288. We got Aljamain Sterling going against Henry Cejudo. We have 14 fights to talk about. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Weezy. I'm looking forward to talking about the spots. One thing that sticks out right off the bat is I was doing research for this card like last Friday and Saturday. I'm like, man, there's a ton of violent spots sticking out. And we're going to talk about some of these lines. Like we have a ton of juiced fight doesn't go to decision lines. Like I think we have like a minus 600. We have like a minus 450, a minus 300. So lots of juice spots, but let's see if we can find some value. See if we can find some plus money on anything. I'm really looking forward to this card. It's a great card. Weezy, what are your thoughts on the card? And you looking forward to the show?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the show. I'm looking forward to the card. I've been breaking this down for the last couple of days, trying to find angles on these fights, and some of them are starting to show themselves because we got a lot of tape on a lot of these guys. We've got decent data sizes to go with, and that makes the data all that much more important when we have that good sample size to lean on to know that the robust data that we do have is going to mean a little bit more when these guys fight. So I'm looking forward to breaking this one down. And as I'm digging into this card further and further, hopefully the spots that stick out like sore thumbs will be the ones that we cash on this week.
Yep, that is always the goal, to make some money. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. If you guys have not, let's smash the like button. Let's get those likes up. We do appreciate it here at the MMA Engine. Also, subscribe to the channel. We go live every Monday for Propability. And then, of course, we got Lou Monk on the channel as well. They're going to do their Friday show, and then Lou doing a couple shows as well. The Same Game Parlay show, which I will be on this week. I'm looking forward to that. And then he also does the props to consider and then maybe bet. Check that out as well on the channel. All right. Buff on the beat. We got first one in here. We got Uncle Weezy is hanging out in the chat. What is up, Weezy? We got Bob. We got Victor DeJesus. We got our guy Lou Betcha. We got Kalu. We got Daz in the chat. We got Lou saying, I bet Brady hat plus 110 and cashed it, man. That was a sharp read. It's a Monday. Last night, somebody compared my hairstyle to Irina Alexeva. So, damn well I'm wearing a hat here on Monday. We'll cash that bet. We got J-Bone in the chat. We got Buffo saying, Brady, by the way, it's pronounced Bufo. Bufo, I got you. Bufo on the beat. I got you there. Remdog, what is up? Jenna Marie in the chat as well. Propaholic, what is up, everybody? All right. I say we get into it here. And let's start with the first fight on the card. We're going to kick it off with an absolute banger. We have Daniel Santos going against Johnny Munoz Jr. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 115, the under 2.5 minus 145. The fight goes decision plus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 180. These violence numbers are just getting completely smashed, and I think it's because it's a Daniel Santos fight, and this guy brings it. He has no regards to his own safety when we're talking about the strike and defense. I don't think that's really going to matter here, but I love the cardio pace and pressure of Daniel Santos. I think he kind of melts Johnny Munoz Jr. here, so more so on the Santos inside the distance side. But hey, if Munoz does get the fight down to the mat, he is a black belt in BJJ. He's been grappling since he was a little kid. Wouldn't completely shock me if Munoz submitted him, but I like Santos here. I like Santos inside the distance, and I'll be looking at Santos inside the distance when other books open up props. And one thing we'll talk about is, man, bet online with some of these lines this week. Like Santos inside the distance is only plus 105. I would have expected a much better number than that. But Weezy, what's sticking out here on the first fight of the card?
Yeah, if it looks like these, violence lines are juiced to the tits, it's because they are, and that's because of the money that's come in on it. We can see that the under 2.5 rounds for Santos Munoz opened up at plus 126. It went to plus 122. Then it went to plus 100. Then it went to minus 120. Then it went to minus 145. And now that's where it's been sitting here for almost a full day. So we've only got a 6-fight sample size. So the prop template isn't going to be too much help on this fight. But we can see down here on the bottom that, Munoz Jr. under 2.5 rounds, 8 out of 9 times. Fight doesn't start round 3, 8 out of 9 times. And Santos, here 7 out of 11 fight doesn't go, like 4 out of 11 under 1.5. So Santos's fights are going to the decision a lot more than Munoz's are. And not only that, Santos appears to be incredibly durable. This guy is going to be very difficult to finish unless you get a submission, but that is something that is going to be in play when you're fighting Johnny Munoz Jr. The guy's been, on the BJJ mat since he was 5 years old here. So, but we don't like ignoring these trifecta bets, and we've got a plus 150 fight goes to decision for this fight, Brady. 40% implied probability, but 50% 50.8% at that of bantamweight fights that are scheduled for 3 rounds go to decision. So that's a 10.8% underpricing there. And 50% of their combined UFC fights, and it's 50% for both of them, have went to decision. That's 10% underpriced. And these guys are going to decision at 0.8% less than what the division does. So right now, the data, it likes this fight goes to decision line at plus 150 a lot more than it likes the over 2.5 at plus 115. And as you can see, as many fights that have went over 2.5 for these two guys have also went to decision. Neither one of these guys has ever had a fight finish in the last 2.5 rounds at the UFC level in that small sample size. So I'm going to take a look at that one, because if I feel like Santos isn't going to get, Munoz out of there, and I also kind of think that Santos is a lot more likely to finish here than Munoz is, but that Munoz submission is going to be in play. These violence lines are juiced, which makes the non-violence lines a little more amenable to what the analytics that are available here. I'm leaning towards these overs, but believe me, not running to the window.
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to be the case for a lot of these fights. Like they're just juicing these fight doesn't go decision lines like crazy, and like the majority of them. So I strongly lean violence. I can't get to the over, but I do think if there's a finish in this fight, it's the Santos side. This guy's next level tough. I had a finish only ticket in his last fight against John Castaneda. The guy almost died like 50 times, but he was able to survive, and then he started to put it on Castaneda and finished him in his own right. So yeah, I think if there's a finish, it's more likely on the Santos side. That's why I'm looking at that Santos inside the distance there. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. Then we have, let me pull it up here. We have Claudio Ribeiro going against Joseph Holmes. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 110, the under 1.5 minus 120. The fight goes decision plus 275. The fight doesn't go decision minus 350. I guess what sticks off right at the bat is both guys have a 100% finish rate. Neither guy's ever won by decision. I think this fight finishes. I was considering the under 1.5 rounds at like plus 118, but that line's no longer there. And what I noticed was a lot of these guys, they have finishes that come after the 1.5 round mark. So I don't feel great about the under 1.5, but I also wouldn't run the out and bet the over 1.5 in this fight. So it's probably a stay away as of now, but the fight doesn't go to decision as a parlay piece. I don't think it's horrible this week. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, I like violence here, but I also don't really like that under 1.5. We can see here for Holmes, under 1.5 rounds, 1 of 3 at the UFC level, and for Ribeiro, it's 1 of 1. But look at Holmes, 4 of 8 fights go under 1.5 on the regional scene, but then 7 of 8 don't start round 3. So he's had 3 fights finish in the last 2.5 minutes of round 2. So that makes the under 1.5 something that I necessarily don't want to bet. Also, my God, we were talking about it last night on Stat Diggers, and then I was up late watching tape. Holy shit. Is Joseph Holmes' conditioning terrible or terrible?
Yeah.
You have 2 choices, Brady. Which is it? I mean, because my God, this guy has about 1 round of gas, which is weird because on the regional scene, when he's getting these finishes in the second half of the second round, his conditioning looks good. But it seems like at the UFC level, either he's having massive adrenaline dumps, maybe he's really nervous, but the conditioning doesn't look good at all for Joseph Holmes. I was considering getting to a bet on him until seeing that he was like breathing with his mouth wide open after 1 round with Jamie Pickett, and then Jun-Yong Park. I mean, he death gassed after 5 minutes in that fight. So I think fight doesn't go to decision at minus 350 is like about as good of a parlay piece as we're going to find on this card right now, because there's no way that Holmes is making it 15 minutes in this fight. Now with Ribeiro, who basically throws everything that he throws with 100% power, big time low leg kicks, wide swinging hooks, but if he hits you, you're going night night. And it's the same thing with Holmes. Holmes has got a lot of really good weapons on the feet as well. When he's at a distance striking range, he's got a good straight right hand, good jab that he stays behind, and good kicks. He's got good knees too. So Yeah, that minus 350 for the fight doesn't go to decision. I'm liking that as a parlay piece.
Yep, I like it too. Also looking to see what the fight won't start round 3 is as well. But yeah, seems like a solid parlay piece to me. This is kind of a disgusting fight, but I like violence for sure, if anything.
Yep, I am really on violence in this. I mean, even at minus 350, I think that it's a good spot because we do have 4 fights of these guys, and yeah, they're 75%. And then if you look at the contender series fights as well, instead of 3 out of 4, now it's 5 out of 6. Now it's 83.33% of the UFC fights, including the Dana White contender series fights, that have finished inside the distance.
Yep, for sure. And then if you want to play Claudio Ribeiro by knockout, you got to lay minus 135 when he's
Come
a minus
on, man.
175 favorite.
That is so messed up, dude. I hate that. I hate that.
Wild. No value in that whatsoever. My goodness. And there's a couple props like that where you like this guy to knock him out. Okay, lay minus 170 on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Wild.
No thanks, man. Chaos Williams too. We talked about that. It's like, boo this man. Whoever is putting these lines out, man. It's terrible.
Terrible. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. We got Jumagulov going against Rafael Esteban. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 180, the under 2.5 plus 150. The fight goes to decision minus 180. The fight doesn't go plus 150. This is one of the very few fights I think goes the distance this week. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They have the over 2.5 and the fight goes to decision both at minus 180 right now. So that's weird. So at that point, you probably take the over 2.5. The spot I'm looking at is fight to end via split decision, just based on principle, based on Zalgas going to split decisions and losing them all the time. That's kind of how I'm looking at, but I do lean towards this fight going over. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
These are really well-priced lines. They are all, in my opinion, exactly where they should be. And usually when I talk about a well-priced line, I'm talking about numbers that you see here, here, and here are all below 10%, either plus or minus, which means that, that line at plus 170 here for the under 2.5, 37%. It's only, the under 2.5 rate, 39.9%. Their under 2.5 rate in 6 combined fights, 33%. Everything is within like 5-6% of the number that we're getting. So you're not really finding a lot of value anywhere. We're overpaying a little bit for the violence lines here. We're maybe underpaying a little bit for the fight goes and the over lines here. And if we go to my advanced stats and there, no, not that one, this one. We can see that Jumagulov has been finished once in 5 losses, and it was by Manel Kopp in a flying knee. And Esteban has never lost, so we really don't know how durable the guy is, but he's a Nova União fighter. He's young, he's tough, he's fought 11 times, and he's never been finished. Obviously, he's never lost. So I do like that this one is I do like this one to go to decision for sure. And it is overpriced here by about 8 and 7%. But according to the metrics that we have available, 4 of 6 fights for Jumagulov have went over 2.5 or have went to decision. And the ones that didn't were against Kopp and were against a non-UFC level fighter in Jerome Rivera. So I think that this one does go. I'd like to get a little bit better prices than minus 180 and minus 210 for the overs, but I think it would, though, that's the way I would play this one, just because I don't think I can count really on either one of these guys to finish. Frankly, Jumagulov has got some power on the feet, but not much. And I think that this is going to be like a clinch battle for a lot of the fight.
Yep, for sure. I like the overs. Not betting that, though. I'm betting the split at hopefully plus 450, something like that. That'd be nice, but we'll see. All right, we'll move on to another violent fight. We got Ikram Alaskarov going against Phil Hawes. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 165, the under 2.5 minus 205. The fight goes to decision plus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 230. The under 2.5 was plus or minus 155 at one point. It's now minus 205. So money's coming in on that. Yeah, I don't think that minus 230 is that bad for a Phil Hawes fight. This guy has I think it's 100% finish rate, right? Still, or
Yeah, let's look. Because
I mean, not
Hawes has got a 50% finish rate at the UFC level in 4 wins. But against he's been finished in all of his losses. And Ikram Aliskerov only has one loss, regional scene to Hamzat Chimaev, but it was a finish as well. So yeah, 5 combined losses for these guys, all of them inside the distance.
Yep, I like violence here. I think on the feet, Hawes has a ton of power, could potentially get a knockout here. And then if Alaskarov gets on top of Hawes, it very well could be a wrap. So yeah, minus 230. It's not like they're completely making this crazy like a lot of other lines here.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And it's another thing. I'm just about to finish taping this fight, Brady, but conditioning is an issue once again. And what
Yep.
we have seen from Ali Skarov on a couple of different occasions is him wrestling and dominating into that third round, showing the ability to be able to push a wrestling heavy game plan for the full 15, which is something that we have not seen from Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes will get tired. He's got a ton of muscle on his frame, and he wrestles a lot and he throws with power. So the combination of those three things make it almost impossible to push a heavy pace for more than 7 or 8 minutes, and that's about what we see from Phil Hawes. Yeah, minus 230. That's another parlay piece, dude, because the fights that have went to decision for Hawes, I know one of them was against the French Russian dude, but what was the other one? Oh, it was the Dawkins fight.
Mm.
And, Dawkins, unless he's getting takedowns, he's not a threat to finish. So Ali Skarov can get takedowns, even against somebody in Phil Hawes, who we know that has 100% takedown defense that we see right here, but only 7 takedowns faced. So interesting fight. I definitely like this one to finish inside the distance, Brady, because I feel like either we're going to see Phil Hawes really have a lot of success early with the striking and stopping the takedowns of Ali Skarov. And if he does that for the first 5 minutes, he's going to have a chance to knock Ikram out, exactly like Hamzat did. But if he doesn't, and then he's facing a bunch of takedown attempts and he starts to gas in the second, it's just a matter of time before Ali Skarov gets on top, steps over that head, wraps up that Kimura, and then it's a wrap.
Yep. I think violence is solid. Striker versus grappler matchup, finishing all their losses. Both guys dangerous. Hawes on the feet, Alaskarov on the mat. Yeah, violence makes a lot of sense in this one. And like I said, it's only minus 230, which is nice.
Yep. And, it's another conditioning thing here, too. And we can call this a striker versus grappler as well, because when it's on the feet, Phil is going to be dangerous, especially early. And anytime it's on the ground, I think Ikram, as being a world Sambo champion 4 times over, I believe, is going to be very dangerous when it's there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, another parlay piece there. I wish I would have got in on the under 2.5 at like minus 155. That would be nice, but that didn't last too long at all.
Yeah. These lines, we keep saying, man, they keep getting sharper and sharper, and they keep moving faster and faster.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll keep moving on. We have a lot more fights to get through. We're going to go to this is the people's main event next, right? The Parker Porter versus Braxton Smith. We have the over under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 plus 125, the under 1.5 minus 155. The fight goes decision plus 300. The fight doesn't go decision minus 400. Honestly, that could probably be one of the best parlay pieces on the entire card. I don't think Braxton Smith goes even to the second round here, let alone to the third round, let alone to decision. I think this fight finishes one way or another. The only problem is I was hoping for maybe plus money on the under 1.5, given that it was a Parker Porter fight. He seems to go over actually a lot, but they're definitely wise to it. The under's chalk and it's getting smashed, and it's still going to probably continue to get smashed throughout the week. So I like some type of violence here, but really wanted a better price than under 1.5.
Yeah, it's hard to like it when you're overpaying 17% according to the benchmark, but we've seen bigger prices than that. Parker Porter's went over 1.5 rounds 3 out of 6 times. So, but I think that if he gets Braxton Smith down, it's going to be a wrap shortly thereafter. And we really haven't seen anything of Braxton Smith's takedown game. His get up game, his ground game at all. We've seen none of it. So there's a lot of unknowns with this fight, but from what I see on tape, I mean, I just don't see this one going to decision. So at minus 400, fight doesn't go to decision for guys that have never been to decision in 16 fights outside of the UFC. Braxton Smith making his debut. The guy does not look like he could possibly have good conditioning. And we know that Porter does. Porter can push a pace for 3 rounds. So, yeah, love violence here. That's a parlay piece.
Yeah, and Lou bringing up the Parker Porter sub price, which is, I don't know if it's a joke or if they're joking or what, but it was like plus 230 for the sub, for Parker Porter sub. I feel like you should get at least plus 1400 for something ridiculous like that, but they're making it plus 230. Like, what's wrong with them?
I know, man, but we can wait for that. We can wait and see, where that goes. But yeah, we might have to try like like Lou says in there, a sub 2. Wow, Porter KO1. Pepe Sylvia has given us a plus 1,000 for Porter KO1. Man, that's a fat number. And this guy, Braxton Smith, I mean, if you can knock out a refrigerator, then you can do it. And plus 1,000, it would be a fat number to cash because this guy doesn't necessarily look like he belongs here.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I think somebody's getting starched here, probably in the first round as well. So we'll see. We'll move on to the next fight. We have a strawweight fight here. We have Marina Rodriguez going against Verna Jandiroba. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 240, the under 2.5 plus 190. The fight goes decision minus 210. The fight doesn't go decision plus 170. And I definitely lean violence here. Striker versus grappler matchup. Verna, very good grappling game. Rodriguez is going to have a massive striking advantage. So I would like the under if anything, but I did pull the trigger on that Jandiroba sub plus 525. I'll probably always bet Jandiroba by sub, but especially at this number because I think I bet it last time against Angela Hill at like plus 300 something. So I think she's going to have opportunities there. I think the sub's going to be live. But yeah, on the feet is Rodriguez all day. So I would definitely lean under. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, I mean, I am not laying minus 210 for that fight goes to decision, even though it's actually a trifecta bet, but it's so small on all three. It's less than 1% here. It's about 3.7% here, about 3.3% here. So minus 210 is actually a fair price for this over, but it's striker versus grappler. You know what, and if you don't want to necessarily pay plus 170, what you could maybe do is arb out. So you do one unit and you balance the Virna sub, which is going to be her win condition, with the Marina Rodriguez knockout, which is going to be her win condition. You could put the commensurate amount of units on both to even it out to a plus money fight doesn't go to decision play with each of their best win conditions. And you could probably get something even better than plus 170. But even though it's overpriced by 5%, 8%, 3.3%, I like this, dude. That's a fat plus money number at plus 170. We've seen Virna gas badly in the third round a couple of different times. She could get knocked out by Marina late. She could wrap up a sub at any point in the fight. She's that talented of a grappler. And we found out that Virna found out that she doesn't necessarily need to shoot double legs if she wants to get the fight to the ground. She can just pull guard, go for an armbar, go for a leg lock, use that to sweep, then get on top and start working her top game. So there's a number of different ways that Virna can be very dangerous here, as well as handsome, Brady. So, at plus 170 for the fight doesn't go, plus 190 for the under 2.5. I would say that the under 2.5 is priced a little bit better here because we're overpaying just a little bit here, but we're getting a better price on this metric and we're getting a better price on this metric. And we've only seen, even in their fights outside the UFC, in 22 fights, only one of them has been finished in the last 2.5 minutes. So I'd rather take that plus 190 for the fight doesn't, or for the under 2.5 here. That's something I think I'm going to bet, Brady.
Yep, I agree, man. I'm already on that Verna, the very handsome Verna submission prop, and I think I might add on to that fight doesn't go, just because of the stylistic matchup. Like I think Verna has nothing for Rodriguez on the feet, and then if this fight hits, nothing at all.
I mean, Ribas just destroyed her on the feet.
Even like Dern was having a lot of success against Verna on the feet. Like that's not good. Like what is Rodriguez going to do? And then if this fight hits the mat, Verna's going to have her opportunities for sure. So yeah, I like that, man. I like the plus money there.
Yeah, me too.
All right. No more plus money on this one, Weezy. We have Chaos Williams going against Rolando Bedoya. We got Chaos Williams over under set at 1.5 rounds. The under 1.5 minus 120 now. The over 1.5 minus 115. The fight goes to decision plus 195. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 250. This one's really annoying because Bedoya, he's never been finished. And I have a really strong feeling that Chaos Williams starches him in the first round, but I thought I'd be getting a much better price for that. Like Chaos Williams inside the distance is minus 150, I think. And then the knockout prop for Williams is minus 135. I just feel like we should be getting a much better price considering Bedoya has never been finished. But I think he's getting finished here. I mean, his striking defense is piss poor. Williams hits like a truck. I think Williams finishes him in the first round. So yeah, I would lean under if anything here. And then the fight doesn't go is probably solid, but I feel like we should be getting better prices for these, considering the fact that both these guys are tough.
They are, and yeah, they're definitely trying to push us towards the overs here. The books they want our over money. They don't want to sit here and hope that Bedoya can pull a Homer Simpson for 15 minutes against Chaos Williams here, because they're obviously telling us by where the money line is on this fight, with Chaos Williams being over 75% implied to win this fight. That they like, they like Chaos. They think he's going to win this fight. And then you see Chaos when he's going out there against guys that aren't necessarily on his level. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, when he was still trying to cut down to 170. Not Martin Sano. Who am I thinking about? Who's the bum that he knocked out? Here, I'll get it here on the screen for us.
You talk about Chaos Williams?
Yeah, Chaos.
He knocked out Baeza, he knocked out Morono, and then he knocked out Abdulrazak Al Hassan.
Wow, do I not have advanced stats for Williams Bedoya on this thing? This is ridiculous. It's not showing up. All right, anyway, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, this is I like the violence, but my God, is it overpriced? 21% according to the benchmark. We're paying 71.43% at minus 250, but only about 50% of fights finish inside the distance for welterweights. And even here, you're looking at a 16% overpayment and a 16% overpayment according to these benchmarks. So, I mean, and from what you saw on tape about Bedoya, he's got like a Homer Simpson type of fight strategy, right?
Oh, yeah.
He blocks punches with his face. He kind of waits for his opponent to tire out, and then he swarms late.
In every fight, pretty much. That's how it goes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's such a bad game plan against Chaos Williams. So as tempting as this is in a 6-fight sample size to see, a little bit of a trifecta bet here with 16% underpricings, and then even here for the over 1.5, a couple of 10% underpricings here, it's still too much, Brady. I don't think I can. As much as the analytics like the overs here, I don't think your Uncle Weezy's going to get there with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be terrifying to watch Bedoya just eat punches with his face. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's another one where they're just all over it, which kind of surprised me. But yeah, they're onto it. They're onto this Bedoya guy.
Yeah, and let's just maybe you and I can definitely agree on this, that the guys on the Peruvian regional scene that he's fighting in parking lots, they probably don't hit as hard as Chaos Williams.
No, I mean, Chaos hits freaking hard. Like, nobody goes out there and starches Morono. And even Alasan, that was the first time he'd been knocked out. He did it in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and it was just such a clean, crisp shot that and it melted him too. I mean, he went to sleep. So, yeah, this is going to be a rough day for Rolando Bedoya. We're going to find out what he's made of on Saturday, but I think that Chaos probably starches him in under 1.5 rounds.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. All right, Weezy. We'll move on to an interesting fight here. We got Kennedy and Zachukwu going against Esteban Clark. Over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 125. The under 2.5 is minus 105. We got fight goes plus 100. Fight doesn't go minus 130. It's one of those fights where I think if there's a finish in this fight, it's going to come from the Kennedy side. I just don't really see Devin Clark finishing anybody outside of William Knight. And Kennedy is super, super tough. I think if there's a finish, it's from Kennedy here. And I am very high on Kennedy this week, so therefore I do lean that fight doesn't go to decision. But I think I'm going to get a little bit greedy and go Kennedy inside the distance once these better prop numbers open up. I think I saw Kennedy inside the distance plus 135. I was hoping for like a plus 150 or better, and I probably get it with like FanDuel or DraftKings. So I'm looking at Kennedy inside the distance. I was also looking at Kennedy's scorecards, no action, but that's minus 325. So they're onto it there. But yeah, I like violence here, and that's just because I'm on the Kennedy side pretty heavy this week.
Yeah, man, I'm on the Kennedy side as well here. And we know that if we look over here at the Devin Clark numbers, Devin Clark has had seven losses as a professional, and they're all in the UFC. And he's been finished 3 times by knockout, 3 times by submission, and 1 loss by decision. And that loss by decision, he got 7 shades of shit beaten out of him by Ion Cutelaba for 3 rounds, literally, swallowing his teeth in that fight. So, man, it's really hard to picture him lasting 3 rounds with Kennedy when you see this dude's size, his power, his ability to now even show a little bit of grappling in his own right. And we've seen, Devin just not be able to deal with it when his opponents have any kind of success. So I'm liking Kennedy. I'm liking Kennedy inside the distance here. As far as how these lines are priced according to the data, minus 130 is a very fair price. And we've seen Kennedy get a finish in the last 2.5 minutes of round 3. And the same thing for Devin Clark. One of his 14 fights has finished there. So I would rather take the fight doesn't go at minus 130 rather than the under 2.5 at minus 105 here, because Kennedy's got such good conditioning. I think that there's a potential for him to get a late finish here against Devin Clark. But I think what I'm probably going to do, because the finish only is minus 325 for Kennedy, that I think I'm just going to bet Kennedy inside the distance and get the plus money number instead of paying minus 130 here. Because, Devin Clark's a guy that unless you're, fighting William Knight, there's no finishing equity for him.
Yeah, for sure. He's the least dangerous brown bear you'll ever see.
Yeah, man, you don't want to mess with any brown bears. Even brown bear Clark would absolutely leave me in a bloody heap. So, like the brown bears that are tougher than brown bear Clark, they would absolutely murder me and eat my guts. So, it's not good. Any brown bear, Brady, we don't want any part of them here on Propability or at the MMA Engine. I think I'm speaking for all of us here. But yeah, man, I think that Kennedy and Zachukwu is going to kick this particular brown bear's ass on Saturday. Maybe even shave it in front of a packed crowd here in Vegas at UFC tour. I'm sorry, where is this one? Is this one in Vegas?
It's in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, my bad. Yeah, so in front of the New Jersey crowd, so that'll be a loud crowd. That will be a crowd.
Where's it? New York.
I think it's one of the other. Yeah, I always just assume they're in Vegas these days.
I mean, Lou will know he's going to it.
Yeah, he's one of those East Coasters over there in Philly, so he would know how to get there, and that's way too far for me to go all the way from Chicago, man. Newark, New Jersey, stand up, dude. It's right next to Brick, which is where my favorite rapper Redman is from. Let's go.
Nice. There you go. All right, we'll move on then. And did she really? Kennedy's mother just passed away. Oh no.
Did I remember? Maybe the chat can help me out here. If I'm not mistaken, Kennedy's mother might have had a condition that was really nasty for a very long time. I might be wrong about that, but I know that one of the reasons it seems that I remember him saying that he was fighting for his mother, which had some kind of, she might have had ALS or something really nasty.
Wow. Yeah, I remember hearing that he does fight for his mom. So yeah, that's terrible. So hopefully he goes in there and gets a win and a finish win in her honor there. Yeah, she was sick. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, she was sick. Okay. That's rest. And dude, sorry, but Felipe Colares, rest in peace. The dude was hit by a bus on his way home from training, only 29 years old, killed. Such a shame, man, So yeah, rest in peace, Kennedy's mom. Rest in peace, Felipe Colares.
Yeah, that sucks, man. I like Colares a lot. I like them as a fighter.
He was so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's terrible. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have, I think, 6 fights left. So we have Drew Dober going against Matt Frivola. We got the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 150, the under 1.5 plus 120. The fight goes plus 275. The fight doesn't go minus 350. My goodness, man. I love violence here, but minus 350, I can't really get to that. I guess maybe I'm considering like the under 1.5 at plus 120 just due to the fact that I have a strange suspicion that Matt Frivola is going to go out there and stand and bang with Drew Dober. And I could very well see this finishing under 7.5 minutes. But if Frivola comes out here and wrestles, like this could go over. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one, Weezy?
Yeah, I mean, the over 1.5 would be a great bet if you knew that Frivola was going to come out and wrestle.
Yes.
Because then you could say, okay, he's not knocking out Dober, probably not finishing him in round 1 via submission. So if he does have wrestling success, he lasts 7.5 minutes and cashes that over 1.5 for you. But man, we've seen Frivola cut. He could have wrestled Valdez, and that would have been easier. He could have wrestled. What was the last fight?
Ottman and Zaitar.
Yeah, he could have wrestled the Zaitar, and it would have been, probably easier. But he made it look easy on the feet either way. In both cases, his hands are looking a lot better, and he's got a lot more faith in them. But against Drew Dober, if he has faith in those hands, it's going to be a dumb move, and Drew Dober will make him stupider after the fight. For the shots that he's landing and the brain cells that Frivola would be losing for voluntarily standing in front of this man. Because the problem with standing in front of Dober is, you're not knocking him out. Unless you sneak a roll of dimes into each hand, and then you hide that from the referee somehow, you're not knocking this dude out. So, you might as well take the path of least resistance here. If you're of the opinion that Frivola is going to do that, then the pricing on the over 1.5 at minus 150 isn't terrible. You're only paying 60%, but 67% of lightweight fights go over 1.5 rounds. And 60% of these guys, 28 combined UFC fights, including 13 of 20 for Drew Dober. That's a 65% over rate for Drew Dober. And he's the one with the bigger sample size. So we're only paying 60% here. Nothing wrong with that. But man, oh man, am I going to keep my butthole clenched for 7.5 minutes of fighting and 1 minute in between rounds? I don't think so, man. That's a lot to ask of your Uncle Weezy at his age. So I think I'm staying away from this one. I would need more plus money on that under 1.5 to be intrigued, and I'm not laying minus 350. 27% overpayment when you compare that 50% long-term benchmark here to the 77%. I think maybe if you want to really if you're the kind of cat that walks around with your balls in a wheelbarrow, plus 275 fight goes to decision. Huh? Brady? Huh? Both these guys got good conditioning. Both these guys are pretty damn durable. I mean, other than with the time that Terrence just sparked.
And Polo Reyes.
Oh, Polo Reyes. Damn it, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. But like I say, man, neither you or I, we're not walking around with our balls in wheelbarrows. But there are cats that do that. I saw Randy Marsh do it on South Park once. So, he might want to bet that fight goes at plus 275. That's a definite possibility. And hey, look, seriously, 28 fight sample size, Brady. 10 of those 28 have went to decision for these guys in 3-round fights. That's 35%. And the implied probability that we're paying here for this big fat plus money number is 26.67%. So that might be a cheeky way to play the data here, get a big plus money number, and then maybe go for a walk during the fight, and then watch it back later when you already know the result.
Yeah, my problem is I do actually want to watch this fight, so I can't bet it. Pepe in the chat though saying Frivola by decision plus 550. And I was also maybe looking at like the Frivola decision only, just due to the fact that if he does get knocked out, it voids. But if he wrestles, he could absolutely win this fight. And if this fight goes to decision, he's going to win because Drew Dober sucks at winning minutes.
Yeah, Drew Dober, not a good minute. Here, let's look at the decision records of these guys over their career. Because that's an excellent point. Matt Frivola 4-1 in his career in decisions, Brady,
Okay.
and 7-6 for Drew Dober. So the much better minute winner. That you just came up with a real cheeky way to play that without having to keep your butthole clenched for 15 minutes, going plus 275. Fight goes to decision here.
Yeah, and since he's a pretty big dog, maybe that'll be at plus money. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait for DraftKings. But yeah, I like that decision only. And if you do have big balls, Frivola by decision as well. But I don't know if I can get to that. I was thinking like Dober inside the distance or Dober KO, but Dober inside the distance is minus 170. He's like a minus 200 favorite. Like, what sense does that make?
That doesn't make any sense, but you always know it's good information. Just because you're getting a bad line, it doesn't mean that the bad line doesn't have good information in it. And what Bet Online is saying to you, Brady, is fuck you.
Yeah.
We're not taking your Drew Dober inside the distance money because we don't want it. We just don't want it. So yeah, he's minus 200. Fuck you, minus 175. Inside the distance. So that's what they're telling you. So you have to listen. Write it down. Bet Online is telling me to go fuck myself.
That's what they're doing, man. And then Dober KO minus 150.
Go fuck yourself, Brady.
Yep.
That's what they're telling you.
Yep. For sure, man. There's a couple of spots where I feel that way. But we'll move on to the next fight, Weezy. Same thing here, man. Charles Jourdain going against Gracie, over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 160. The under 2.5 minus 200. The fight goes decision plus 195. The fight doesn't go minus 250. This fight screams violence, but minus 250. I can't quite get there, man. And then I was looking at maybe like Gracie by submission, and it's only like plus 275, plus 250, something like that. So another spot where, yeah, I like violence. I think it's either Jourdain by knockout or Gracie by early sub, but lots of chalk here to lay if you want to play something, unless you want to go with the overs.
How big are your balls is the question, right? I mean, are you carrying them around in a wheelbarrow? Because if you are, boy, does your Uncle Weezy have a bet for you. Woo. The over 2.5 rounds at plus 160 is a 38% implied probability. 61% of featherweight fights scheduled for 3 rounds since January 1st, 2013 have went over 2.5 rounds. So 61% minus 38%, that's a 22% discount when you compare those two benchmarks to each other. Charles Jourdain and Gracie at the UFC level, 9 of their 12 fights, or 75%, have went over 2.5 rounds. When you compare that 75% number to the 38.5% implied probability of the line, you get a 36.5% discount. Dude, Brady, this might be the biggest trifecta bet that the Drop Template has ever shown us since the beginning of this show.
Wow.
And I am not betting it. My ball just shrunk up when I saw this line because I'm like, there's no way I can't do it, man. I mean, am I going to really, think that Gracie is going to survive for 15 minutes on the feet with Jourdain, with him throwing those spinning techniques? Jourdain's got a ton of knockdowns at the UFC level, landing them on about 1% of the significant strikes that he's landing. So, yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting one. I wanted to point that out because this is how much the market is screaming to the bookies that, like, hey, man, we don't care where you price it. We don't see a way that this fight goes 15 minutes. And that's when you start to see 27.5% overpricing here. 27.5% overpricing here. In a 12-fight sample size, you're overpaying 41.67% when you compare what you're paying to the 25% likelihood that it actually happens at the UFC level in their past fights. My God, it's wild. So this is one where you are spitting in the face of the analytics if you bet the under, but you're probably going to win. So yeah, I mean, like, this is probably still a stay away, but maybe like if I get really drunk one night this week and I start talking to myself at 3:00 in the morning, I'm like, fuck it, analytics, you're right. I'm trusting them. I'm betting the plus 160. I'm going to tell everybody that I was right. And then I'm going to puke all over myself, fall asleep, and then wake up in the morning going, oh, please tell me I didn't bet that and track it. So we'll find out later on in the week, Brady. We're going to find out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we'll find out, man. I mean, it's yeah, they're all over it. Striker versus grappler matchup. We have not seen Gracie in 3.5 years. 3.5 years. So yeah, they're onto it. I was very disappointed when I saw the under was like minus 200.
Yeah, man. But it is what it is, man. And you could still probably throw it in parlays and it's probably still gonna cash. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's so hard to know where Cron Gracie is at this point after taking 3.5 years off and having, frankly, the performance fresh in my mind is him not trying to grapple against Cub Swanson for 3 rounds.
Good times. Those were good times. All right, Weezy. We got 4 fights left. Wow, we got lots of fights on this card. Ebalaw versus Bryce Mitchell here. The over/under set at 2.5 rounds. I believe this is the most juiced over. Minus 265 to this over. The under plus 205. The fight goes minus 230. The fight doesn't go is plus 190. I think this fight goes the distance. Ebalaw just not finishing anybody, let alone Bryce Mitchell here. And then, yeah, I think Ebalaw is the side here. And then Ebalaw by decision is kind of where I'd look, but that's minus 150. So, yeah, not a fight I have too much interest in from a betting perspective. But anything sticking out here, Weezy?
Yeah, the veins in Evloev's arms. Have you seen some pictures of him lately, man?
He's in
It
great
looks
shape.
like
Yeah, he's in great shape.
saying his prayers, going to bed early, and taking his Flintstones vitamins because the dude looks ripped, way more than usual. So, but here's the thing, Brady. Even though we see these big juiced numbers here at minus 230, minus 265, the kind of stuff that might normally get us off betting these kind of numbers. And we're overpaying by 13% here. We're overpaying by 11% here when we compare the implied probabilities of the lines to the benchmarks for the division. But all 6 of Evloev's fights at the UFC have went to decision. 5 of 7 for Bryce Mitchell. 84.5% of their fights combined, and there's 13 of them have seen the scorecard. So we're still underpaying by 15% when we compare it to the benchmark for the division. This number to this number, this number to this number is 14.92% difference. And this number to this number is a 28.5%. So, and neither one of these guys has ever finished a fight in those last 2.5 minutes. So I think I would rather take that 3% discount here and just go fight goes to decision at minus 230, because even though we're overpaying by 13.5% here, we make all that up right here and we get 28.5% back down here as well. So I think that it's a great spot. But we have to worry about, Evloev all of a sudden being able to, punch through a brick wall because he's been on supplements and we haven't seen him in a minute. So we'll find out how that all goes. But yeah, I think that this could potentially be a parlay piece. Fight goes to decision at minus 230 because the price is still right when we compare the data that we have available of both of these guys in a 13-fight sample size to the price of the line.
Yep, I agree. I think it definitely can be a potential parlay piece. I think there's a couple potential parlay pieces on this card, and that's definitely one of them. Would be fairly surprised if there was a finish on either side there, to be honest. So, 3 fights left. We got the very handsome Jessica Andrade taking on Yan Xiaonan. We got the over/under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 157. The under 2.5 plus 127. The fight goes minus 125. The fight doesn't go minus 105. Kind of feels like the Kennedy and Clark fight where Yan Xiaonan is finishing literally nobody. And I don't see her finishing Jessica Andrade. And Jessica Andrade, all she does is really finish. She's a great finisher. I lean violence here just because I am on the Jessica Andrade side. But like I said, with the Kennedy fight, I feel like I'm just going to get a little bit greedy and take Andrade inside the distance. I think she can get on top of Yan Xiaonan and do some work, as did like Carlos Esparza. So I like violence here, but it's because I'm on the Andrade side. But what's sticking out here, Weezy?
Kind of like these overs, if I'm being honest with you, Brady. And here's why, right? We could see Yan Xiaonan's UFC, what she's doing here, right? One of her fights have finished inside the distance, and it was the Carlos Esparza fight where she was taken down and ground and pounded. But Jessica Andrade, in 17 UFC fights, only 9 of them have finished inside the distance, which is a little over 50%. So let's say that Andrade does control the pace here. she still only is finishing a little over half the time her fights, and that's for and against. And let's keep in mind, Brady, let's keep in mind, my friend, that Jessica Andrade has been finished a ton. Look at that. 37.5% by knockout, 37.5% by decision, 3 times by knockout, 3 times by decision, 6 finishes in 8 losses. So a lot of these fights where she is getting finished, you know, that's also figuring into these numbers where it looks like she's the one finishing, but Yan Jourdain can't finish her bowl of cereal in the morning. So she's not going to finish Jessica Andrade. So I kind of feel like these overs, fight goes minus 125, over 2.5, minus 157, getting some nice discounts here. They're right in line with what the fighter performance has been over the long term, which is right around 60%, right? And this is right about what we're paying. But they are, when you compare these numbers, these 60% numbers to these numbers, still not as high, right? So we are overpaying a little bit when we compare that to that. But that's okay, because I think that that's the least predictive of the 3 that we have. I would say that this row here is probably the most predictive, because especially when we have a big sample size, it's going to show, whether the line is overpriced or underpriced according to that number. And then this one is just a good benchmark, so that one's very predictive as well. And then this one here just compares how the fighters do to the benchmark, which is a comparison that we can make without having the betting lines. So I like the overs a little bit here, Brady. I would say the fight goes to decision at minus 125. Not a terrible bet, but since I have to pay juice and it's a Jessica Andrade fight and I got to hope that she doesn't get a finish, I don't know if that's good enough yet. But the money might keep coming in on violence here because it's a Jessica Andrade fight and because we've seen her finish so many times at the UFC level. And because of that image still fresh in our mind of Yan Jourdain absolutely getting a tour of the octagon from Carla Esparza and giving Carla Esparza one of her only finishes at the UFC level.
Yeah, I'm staying away from the totals here, but I do like Andrade to finish this fight. So yeah, I'm staying away from totals, but I will be taking Andrade inside the distance. I think she does take down Yan Jourdain and beats her up on the mat and finishes her there. So we'll see, but we'll move on to the co-main event. We have 2 5-round fights here. We got the co-main event, Belal Muhammad going against Gilbert Burns. We have the over-under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 rounds is minus 155, and then the under 4.5 rounds is plus 125. The fight goes to decision is on 5 dimes because BetOnline doesn't have props out for this fight, which is weird because it's the only fight they don't have props out for. But on 5 dimes, the fight goes to decision, minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 115. And I'm actually leaning violence here. I think Burns is live for a finish early. I think he hits very, very hard. Obviously, he has incredible grappling. And then as this fight goes on, I think Muhammad is going to be live for a late finish, 3-4 in the 5th round as well. So I like fight doesn't go at plus money, and it is something I am considering betting this week. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, so fight doesn't go and the under 4.5 where they're currently priced are both small trifecta bets here. So we're getting a little bit of a discount when we compare all these metrics to each other. So 44% is the price that we're paying here at plus 125 on the under 4.5. We can see that 46% of 170-pound fights that were scheduled for 5 rounds, that's 31 of 67 since 2013, have went under 4.5 rounds. So that's 46%. We're only paying 44. 2 of their 4 combined 5-round fights at the UFC level have went under 4.5 rounds. That's 50%. Compare that to this, you get a 5.56% discount. Compare that to this, get a 3.73% discount. So the analytics, when we add up all the numbers, like the under 4.5 at plus 125 more than we like the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 115. And then the overs, we can see that they're overpriced, a little bit on all 3 metrics here. But, it's a Belal Muhammad fight, and we really haven't seen Belal finish much. He's very durable. He's got great conditioning. But we don't know, for Gilbert Burns, we just don't know how he's going to look at this age, in a 5-round fight against somebody who pressures as much as Belal, against somebody who throws as much volume as Belal. So very interesting spot. I'm definitely leaning these unders because the analytics lean them, and because Belal Muhammad coming off of Ramadan, he wanted this fight at 175. It's at 170. 5-round fight instead of 3. There's a lot of things that could happen here. A lot more time for things to happen, for a big shot to land, for a weird position to happen on the ground where there's a potential submission. So I'm leaning violence here, but not running to the window for it.
Yeah, I think I'm running to the window for it. Probably got it on the under 4.5 rounds. I just like the short notice aspect of things. I think Burns is super dangerous early. I don't like Burns' gas tank. I don't like Burns' chin as well. And we saw Muhammad go out there and knock out Sean Brady in the second round. Why can't he go out there and push the pace, the pressure, and eventually finish Burns? So yeah, I like the under, and it is something I am very close to betting. But maybe I'll wait because it looks like money's coming in on the over. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, I do like violence here as well.
Yeah, and if we go to this next fight, Sterling Cejudo, we're going to find even better numbers with even more robust sample sizes for these violence lines, which is why I'm running to the window maybe for the under 4.5, a little bit faster for the Sterling Cejudo fight than I am for the Belal, but for the Belal fight. But I think what the case is, Brady, is that stylistically, maybe the over looks a little bit better for the main event, but stylistically for that co-main event, because of the short notice for Belal, because of Ramadan, because Burns has been chinny and gassy, that stylistically, I think the under in the co-main event may be better. But numbers-wise, I think the under in this main event is even better.
Let's talk about it. We got the main event: Henry Cejudo, Aljamain Sterling. The over/under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 minus 160. The under 4.5 is plus 130. The fight goes to decision, minus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 100. And yeah, it would have to be violence or pass here for me. I think both guys do have paths to finish. Cejudo is going to have the power on the feet. He's going to have the cardio, and then Sterling, if he gets his fight down to the mat, he's going to have opportunities to sub Cejudo. What I'm struggling with is I don't think Sterling's taking down Cejudo at all. I don't think it's happening, but maybe he could take his back in a scramble. And if he does that, then yeah, he's going to be live for that sub. So yeah, I would lean violence here at that plus money. It's actually plus 110 on FanDuel. And that is something I'm also considering betting. And then yeah, Cejudo coming off of a 3-year layoff as well. I think violence is definitely the way to go here at plus money.
Yeah, and look at this here. So we've got 35 fights that have happened in the bantamweight division that have been scheduled for 5 rounds since 2013, and we've had 22 finish inside the distance, 21 go under 4.5. So, yeah, when we compare these prices of the line or the implied probability, and we compare the number that we get here at 62.86% and 60% here, nice fat discounts, right? And then we look here, we've got 8 fights for these two guys that have been scheduled for 5 rounds. Guess what? 75% of them combined have finished under 4.5 and have finished inside the distance. So we're getting big trifecta bets here, albeit in a smaller sample size because there's only 35 fights, where if we were to go to a regular bantamweight fight, we would see that there'd be something like a 700 fight sample size. So obviously, the benchmark isn't quite as meaningful here, but it's a 5-round fight. And we do know that they're finishing inside the distance over 60% of the time. But for some reason, we're only paying 43 and 47. So this is a discount, you guys. And when you got a 5-round fight and you're betting violence, you'd much rather be on the violence side, right? Because they're giving you 22 and a half minutes for some shit to happen, for a bone to break, for a doctor stoppage, for a free cut, for a clash of heads. Anything can cause this to finish, so a lot more things can happen here. I love the violence side here. I think it's a great bet.
Yep. I like it. I like violence in both of those 5-round fights, and that is something I'll probably be taking a look at as well. For that one, yeah, plus 110 there on FanDuel Sportsbook for that fight doesn't go.
I love it, dude. I think it's a great spot.
Yep, agreed. I like it. All right. Lots of spots sticking out. Weezy, we hit our PP last week, right? We had the Vieira under parlayed with the under in the was it the Levy fight?
Yeah, we did have that Levy fight, and yeah, obviously, so it wound up being another one-legger. But I think later on, Victor was in the chat on our Wednesday show on Pub Sports Radio, and he said, "What's the new second leg?" Because the Levy fight fell off, and we said fight doesn't go to decision for Edgar Alexeva because it was clear to everybody that Edgar was going to whoop this girl's ass.
Oh yeah.
So and so we got it 100% right.
Let's go. Yeah, that fight doesn't go for Edgar was solid.
Yeah,
man.
not on the result of the fight, but on the fight that the fight
Yeah.
wasn't going to go to decision because we were dead wrong about who was going to win. But either way, hey, we'll take those cashes, right? So yeah, we did hit that one, and I think that there's a probability parlay that's just sticking out like a sore thumb right here, and I think we might be on the same page. But there's a lot of other spots that are sticking out. But I mean, fight doesn't go to decision for Ribeiro versus Holmes minus $350. Fight doesn't go to decision for Hawes Alaskarov minus 230. And fight doesn't go to decision for Braxton Smith versus Parker Porter minus 400.
Yep, plus 131 for those three.
Dude, I like it.
Yeah, I mean
we can't actually parlay that right now, but if we could, you'd be seeing that on my tracked bets. And as soon as it is available, like on DraftKings, I'm going to be betting that because if any of those three fights go to decision, I'm quitting as a capper.
Especially the Porter fight.
Oh my God. Can you imagine what that would look like?
No, I can't.
15 minutes of those two dudes. I mean, like Parker Porter's giant ass trying to fight an actual refrigerator for 15 minutes. I mean, it would be such a meme. So, I mean, yeah, that I don't see any of these fights. Hawes with his gassiness, going up against a guy like Alaskarov that's so dangerous with the grappling. And then, with Holmes, you got a guy that's incredibly gassy. He's got about one round of gas at the UFC level going up against a guy like Ribeiro who hits like a truck. So I think all three of those fights finish inside the distance. But also, plus 190, fight doesn't go to decision. Virna versus Marina. I like that. And Bootsy loves Virna.
Nice.
And then we got if you've got big balls, you can go with the plus 275 Frivola Dober goes to decision and the plus 160 over 2.5 rounds for Gracie versus Jourdain. I don't know if I'll be there with you. But minus 230 fight goes to decision. Mitchell versus Ebalaw, I think, is another potential parlay piece. And then I like those under 4.5s in the co-main event and in the main event at plus 120 for Burns versus Muhammad and plus 130 for Sterling versus Cejudo.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely liking a lot of those same spots. Yeah, lots of spots sticking out this week. So I might have to start putting some bets after the show. But yeah, Weezy, we're gonna head out of here. Before we do so, let people know your plans for this week for some content.
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to break down all 14 of these fights from a stats and tape study perspective. I'll give you a greasy four-leg parlay, and we'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Just the tip with Uncle Weezy, 10 o'clock Central Time. You can also find me on the on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel, Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central Time with Brady, Monk, and Gordo for the DFS show. And then I'll be doing something on Wednesday night on my channel for this pay-per-view card, either a prize picks show or some kind of Ask Weezy situation. Either way, look for me in all three of those places the rest of the week. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 288.
Let's do it. Yeah, guys, thank you for hanging out here on the MMA Engine on a Monday. Be sure to like, subscribe. You can check me out on my channel, DFS by the Numbers. I just posted my full card breakdown and prediction video, and then I'll be going live Friday, and then I'll be doing 2 lives on Saturdays, and including Best Bet as well. Looking forward to that. But yeah, guys, talk to you soon. Best of luck. Should be a fun card. Let's make some money for UFC 288. See you later.